I know she will bring to the demands of her new role the steadfast devotion to duty on which I had come to rely so much.
But Camilla isn't the only woman emerging from Princess Diana's shadow.
What if everything you thought you knew about the royal family was only the surface? Behind the glittering balls, the official portraits, and the public smiles, a storm had been quietly brewing, one that would shake the monarchy to its very core. One night, in a room where loyalty, ambition, and decades of hidden tension collided, a decision was made that no one expected, and the consequences were immediate, devastating, and irreversible. This is the story of power tested, secrets exposed, and a crown thrown into chaos. Allies turned silent, rivals waited in the shadows, and a single moment changed the course of history forever. The question isn't just who won or lost, it's who will survive the fallout when tradition, ambition, and family collide. Tonight, we take you behind closed doors to uncover the secret night that shattered the monarchy and left the crown trembling. The night the crown shattered. For decades, Buckingham Palace had held secrets that never left its walls. Tales whispered through gilded corridors, warnings exchanged behind locked doors, and tensions buried beneath layers of ceremony. Yet on one fateful night, those whispers erupted into reality. King Charles, in a move no one anticipated, reportedly stripped Camilla of her royal title, a decision that shocked the world and sent tremors through every corner of the monarchy. What was intended to remain private was now public, leaving the world asking, why now, and why with such finality? The truth, insiders claim, was far darker and more complex than anyone could have imagined. The evening had been framed as a family gathering, a symbol of unity. But the moment the invited walked through the palace doors, it was clear that unity was not the agenda. The guest list was short and carefully curated, each name chosen for loyalty and discretion. But secrecy only fuels speculation. Was this meant to ease tensions or to test the loyalties of those present? Those inside knew instinctively that the night would not end quietly, that the events about to unfold could alter the monarchy forever. King Charles entered first, his figure smaller than the crown he bore. Age, illness, and the burdens of his role weighed visibly on his shoulders.
We've received breaking news from Buckingham Palace, which has announced that the King has been diagnosed with cancer.
Yet his eyes remained sharp, cold, and commanding. Every movement he observed was measured, every reaction analyzed. He spoke little, relying instead on silence as a weapon, an unyielding presence that set the tone for what was to come. Camilla followed, composed and poised, her smile polished to perfection, her posture meticulously controlled. She believed this evening would reinforce her place as queen consort, a subtle confirmation of her permanence beside Charles. Yet the room told a different story. Glances exchanged were sharp and pointed, silences carried the weight of unspoken truths, and small gestures betrayed tension far more than words could. The arrival of William and Catherine only intensified the unease. No greeting, no words, only glances that cut through the air, as though communicating volumes without uttering a sound. Catherine's expression was inscrutable, yet a slight curve of her lips suggested she sensed inevitability approaching. Princess Anne, ever the observer, remained perfectly still. No theatrics, no commentary, only the quiet composure of someone who had watched countless family dramas unfold and understood precisely how history repeats itself. The night began less like a gathering and more like an unveiling. Charles cleared his throat, a small, seemingly mundane act. But the effect was immediate. Camilla's smile faltered. William's jaw tightened, Catherine's gaze dropped, and Anne remained unmoved, observing the room with unblinking precision. Then, the words everyone had anticipated but never heard aloud. Camilla's royal title was stripped. It was delivered without cruelty, yet with absolute finality. The silence that followed was suffocating, filled with the weight of secrets laid bare. Camilla gripped the table. William's eyes burned with a mixture of shock and inevitability. Anne's expression remained unchanged, confirming truths she had long understood. Behind this dramatic moment were years of unseen tension. Palace insiders reveal that the first cracks appeared shortly after Charles ascended the throne in 2022.
Prince Charles officially became king as soon as his mother passed away. He would have been addressed as Your Majesty the King the moment that she stopped being Your Majesty.
Publicly, the monarchy seemed unified. Privately, disputes over ceremonial precedents, subtle power struggles, and disagreements over protocol accumulated quietly, building a wall of division. Camilla's growing influence, once celebrated in charitable circles, began to stir unease. Her family's presence in spaces traditionally reserved for Windsor members raised eyebrows, prompting whispers of ambition and overreach. Was she seeking to establish a personal legacy rather than serving the crown? Some insiders believed so, and the murmurs only intensified with time. Catherine's role was subtle but significant. Sensitive to public sentiment, she cautioned Charles that Camilla's ambition could provoke backlash, particularly under the long shadow of Diana's enduring legacy. Catherine represented the monarchy's future, projecting stability and grace, while Camilla embodied ambition and assertiveness. That night, perhaps, Charles acted not impulsively, but after absorbing years of counsel and observation. The scene was less a sudden eruption than the culmination of decades-long tensions. Camilla responded with a mixture of defiance and desperation. Her voice cut through the tense silence, a reminder of decades she claimed to have stood beside Charles through his darkest hours. Her words carried both accusation and plea. She had endured scorn, sacrificed reputation, and remained steadfast. Yet Charles remained unmoved, colder than the marble beneath his hands. Pressing the decree onto the table, he delivered judgment, a symbolic gavel striking through hope. Pride gave way to begging. Anne's words, sharp and merciless, pierced the room. "You sacrificed the crown." No sympathy, only judgment from a sister whose vision of duty had never wavered. William's composure reflected duty over emotion. Catherine's calm presence projected authority and reassurance, counterbalancing the chaos Camilla's outburst had created. Camilla's fury hardened into a storm barely contained. Whispers of rebellion, hidden knowledge, and secrets capable of shaking the monarchy echoed through the room. Overnight, the palace itself seemed to quiver. Orders reversed, titles erased, centuries-old protocols quietly rewritten. Portraits disappeared, jewels returned to vaults, and hallways seemed to resonate with tension, as though acknowledging that history had just shifted. Princess Anne, sources suggest, orchestrated much of the transition. Calm and precise, she ensured the monarchy's machinery continued to function without falter, removing Camilla from power with efficiency and quiet authority. Some insiders speculate that she may have worked in alignment with William long before the storm erupted, recognizing that the crown could not endure under Camilla's growing influence. Their patience and foresight converged on this decisive night, leaving little doubt about where the monarchy's future now rested. Public perception shifted swiftly. The crown remained with Charles, yet eyes turned to William and Catherine, symbols of the monarchy's future. Catherine, refined through years of quiet restraint, now shone as the embodiment of stability and dignity, a living reminder of Diana's compassion without imitation. Camilla's abrupt removal reshaped palace dynamics and the narrative in public eyes, tilting the balance toward the next generation. Yet uncertainty lingered. Would Camilla accept defeat quietly, or leverage the secrets she had accumulated to strike back? What forces, hidden within palace walls, might threaten the fragile balance? This was not simply a removal of a title. It was a seismic shift. an event that could redefine the monarchy for decades. The night's tension had been palpable from the start. Every glance, every hesitation, every subtle gesture carried meaning. Camilla, confident and composed, believed she would emerge reassured in her position. Instead, she encountered cold looks, withheld nods, and a silence louder than any applause. Years of minor disagreements and private clashes culminated in a slow-building storm. Charles's unease at Camilla's encroachment into ceremonial duties, the rising influence of her family, and Catherine's quiet warnings had all set the stage. That evening was less a shock than the inevitable crescendo of decades of strategic maneuvering. When Charles finally broke the silence, the room seemed to shatter. His declaration removed Camilla's title, an act that left disbelief hanging in the air. Humiliation, betrayal, and shock rippled through those present. Camilla erupted, not with sorrow but with fiery accusation. She reminded everyone that she had been more than a consort.
Queen Elizabeth says she wants Camilla, the Duchess of Cornwall, to be known as Queen Consort when Prince Charles becomes king.
A keeper of secrets and confidences. Her threat was unmistakable. If she fell, she would not fall alone. The implied power she wielded was chilling, capable of destabilizing the monarchy if unleashed. Anne's gaze remained steady, unwavering, a silent reinforcement of the decision's inevitability. William and Catherine, silent yet purposeful, underscored strategy over sentiment. Catherine's composure contrasted with Camilla's chaos, positioning her as the face of stability for the monarchy's future. In that single evening, the balance of power shifted, quietly but irreversibly. Camilla stormed from the room, leaving the palace buzzing with uncertainty. Overnight, staff hesitated, orders reversed, and centuries-old protocols quietly vanished. The monarchy had weathered scandals before, but never a conflict so intimate, so immediate, and so capable of reshaping the institution. Whispers of letters, sensitive documents, and concealed conflicts kept officials on edge, each fearing the potential for explosive revelations. For William, the challenge became managing perception, framing the event as a step toward continuity rather than division. Catherine's calm presence reinforced this narrative, symbolizing stability and reassurance, a counterpoint to Camilla's unpredictability. The monarchy, though shaken, projected dignity and strategic foresight. But beneath the surface, nothing would ever be the same. As the night ended, questions lingered. Was Charles's decision a defense of tradition or a spark for internal strife? Was Camilla's fall inevitable, the result of years of plotting and subtle influence? Or was it the execution of a calculated plan by those aware that her presence threatened the crown's stability? Answers remained locked behind palace walls, leaving the public to speculate, to watch, and to wonder. One truth endured. The monarchy had entered a new era, and the tremors of that night would be felt for generations. Every glance, every silence, every whispered warning had reshaped the institution, proving that even crowns built on centuries of tradition can fracture when ambition, duty, and strategy collide. Secrets, shadows, and the crown's breaking point. The night that had begun as a supposed gathering of unity had, in truth, been anything but. Whispers clung to the gilded walls like shadows, eyes darted cautiously, and every gesture carried more weight than words ever could. Camilla had entered with the confidence of someone certain of her place by Charles's side. She believed this evening would reinforce her permanence. Yet the room had been prepared differently. Nods withheld, glances sharpened, silence that spoke louder than any proclamation. Each signal warned her that her certainty was misplaced. Years of subtle tension had been building beneath the palace's glittering surface. Charles's unease at Camilla's growing influence, her family's encroachment into royal matters, and her ambition to expand authority had quietly frayed the monarchy's delicate fabric. Catherine had long cautioned Charles, warning that allowing Camilla too much sway could provoke backlash, especially under Diana's lingering shadow.
People are still thinking about Diane, and it's a shadow that looms large.
Those warnings, though private, had quietly shaped Charles's perspective, guiding him to the night's decisive action. When Charles finally spoke, the silence fractured like glass. His decree stripped Camilla of her title. Disbelief and shock rippled through the room. The weight of humiliation and betrayal pressed heavily on every shoulder. But Camilla did not respond with submission. Her defiance erupted, fierce and unyielding. She reminded everyone that her role had been more than ceremonial. She had been a keeper of secrets, the guardian of private confidences. Her warning was clear. If she fell, she would not fall quietly. The implication of the knowledge she held hung like a storm cloud over the room, threatening to ignite the palace in chaos. Anne's eyes remained steady, unflinching, a silent testament to her long-understood certainty. William and Catherine, silent yet purposeful, communicated through subtle glances. Catherine's calm contrasted sharply with Camilla's fury, signaling to the family and the public that she embodied the stability and continuity the monarchy now demanded. In that single night, the scales of power shifted, quietly but irrevocably. Camilla stormed from the chamber, leaving behind an air of uncertainty that spread rapidly through the palace. Orders were reversed overnight, staff hesitated to execute previously unquestioned directives, and centuries-old protocols seemed suddenly fragile. The monarchy had survived scandals, but never an upheaval so intimate and potentially destabilizing. Whispers of letters, sensitive documents, and clandestine conflicts circulated among aides and advisors, each fearing the consequences of Camilla's potential retaliation. For William, the challenge became controlling the narrative. To protect the crown, he had to frame the events as a demonstration of foresight and courage rather than division. Catherine's calm presence became their greatest asset. Where Camilla represented chaos and unpredictability, Catherine radiated dignity, reassurance, and an unshakable image of stability. Every photograph, every public appearance, was now a strategic signal to the world. The monarchy had endured, and its future rested with them. Yet uncertainty lingered like a shadow. Would Camilla accept her fall quietly? Or would she leverage the secrets she had amassed over decades to strike back? There were whispers of private letters, confidential conversations, and sensitive documents that could potentially destabilize the monarchy if released. The thought alone kept aides on edge, with every decision weighed against the possibility of an explosive revelation. Insiders suggest that Princess Anne had orchestrated much of the transition, overseeing the quiet removal of Camilla from power with precise, almost surgical efficiency. Calm, unflinching, and razor-sharp, Anne ensured that the machinery of the monarchy continued to operate, even as one of its key players was abruptly removed. Some speculate that Anne and William had shared an unspoken strategy for years, recognizing that Camilla's growing influence posed a risk to the crown's stability. Their patience had culminated in that decisive night, executed with almost invisible precision. Public perception shifted almost immediately. While Charles officially retained the crown, eyes and attention moved toward William and Catherine. Catherine, poised and disciplined through years of restraint, now embodied the monarchy's future. Her image, polished and serene, contrasted sharply with Camilla's sudden downfall. In the eyes of the public, Catherine became the symbol of stability, continuity, and grace, the living embodiment of Diana's compassion without imitation. The balance of influence had quietly moved toward the next generation of royals, and the narrative had begun to favor them. Yet the palace itself remained a tinderbox. Staff whispered in corridors, advisors fretted over the implications of Camilla's threats, and unseen forces lurked in the shadows, poised to act should the fallen queen consort seek revenge. The monarchy had survived internal conflict before, but never one so intimate, immediate, and capable of reshaping the institution. Every glance, every paused step, every whispered warning suggested that the night's events would echo far beyond that evening. Camilla's fury and potential retaliation were the specter hanging over Buckingham Palace. Her departure did not mark the end of the crisis. It signaled the beginning of a subtle but dangerous power struggle. Those who had long maintained loyalty to her were uncertain where to place their allegiance. Whispers of documents, letters, and secrets capable of destabilizing even the king's authority circulated quietly, igniting a sense of unease among the staff and advisors. William's strategy became clear: control perception, maintain stability, and emphasize continuity. Catherine's composure became a living emblem of reassurance for the public, projecting an image of a monarchy unshaken by internal strife. Camilla's chaos contrasted sharply with Catherine's calm, solidifying the latter as the embodiment of the monarchy's future. The palace hierarchy adapted quickly, yet the undercurrent of fear remained. Every decision, every move, was now calculated against Camilla's potential influence. The public narrative began to crystallize. While the crown remained with Charles, attention shifted unmistakably toward William and Catherine. Catherine, polished and composed, now represented the monarchy's continuity. Camilla's removal, abrupt and dramatic, reshaped not only the internal dynamics of the palace, but also the perception of the monarchy in the public eye. Stability, grace, and foresight became the defining traits of the future, and Catherine stood at the center of that vision. Yet questions persisted. Was Charles's decision a defense of tradition, or the spark of an internal royal war? Was Camilla's fall inevitable, a culmination of years of subtle pressure and strategic maneuvering? Or was it a carefully orchestrated plan, executed by Anne and William, to protect the crown from growing instability? These questions remained unanswered, locked behind palace walls, leaving the public to speculate, watch, and wonder. The palace's corridors had never felt so tense. Every aide, every advisor understood that history had shifted. Whispers of rebellion, secrets, and potential retaliation hung in the air like a storm cloud ready to break. Camilla's influence had not disappeared with her title. It lingered as a threat, a reminder that the monarchy's stability was never guaranteed. Camilla's departure set in motion a series of subtle but significant shifts. Policies were quietly rewritten, ceremonial roles reallocated, and power carefully redistributed. Every action, every gesture was scrutinized for signals: who now held influence, who was aligned, and who remained loyal to the crown. William and Catherine's patience and foresight now bore fruit. Catherine's calm presence reassured the public, while William's strategic mind controlled the internal narrative, ensuring the monarchy projected strength and stability. Despite these maneuvers, the palace remained on edge. Camilla's threats were not idle. Years of accumulated secrets, private correspondence, sensitive conversations, and knowledge of internal conflicts hung like a loaded weapon over Buckingham Palace. Advisors and staff moved cautiously. Every decision weighed against the possibility of an explosive revelation. The monarchy had survived scandals before, but this was different. This was a war fought within its own walls, a struggle where every move carried enormous stakes. Anne's influence was undeniable. Calm, precise, and unwavering, she orchestrated the removal of Camilla with a combination of strategic foresight and measured authority. Her understanding of palace dynamics, combined with a clear vision of duty, ensured that the monarchy's machinery continued to function even as one of its central figures was removed. Observers suggest that Anne and William may have quietly coordinated over years, preparing the stage for a future where the crown's stability was prioritized over personal loyalties. Public reaction was swift. Catherine became the face of continuity, embodying stability, composure, and dignity. Camilla's abrupt removal reshaped not only the internal hierarchy, but also the perception of the monarchy externally. The narrative shifted toward the next generation of royals, reinforcing the idea of a stable, enduring institution. The monarchy, though shaken, projected strength and strategic resilience. Yet the threat of Camilla's influence lingered. Would she accept defeat quietly or leverage the secrets she held to destabilize the institution further? Her anger, knowledge, and experience made her a formidable figure, capable of influencing perception, challenging authority, and threatening stability. The palace understood that this was not the end, only the beginning of a new, delicate balance of power. The monarchy had entered a new era. The tremors of that night would be felt for decades. Every glance, every silence, every calculated action had shifted the institution irreversibly. Crowns built on centuries of tradition could fracture when ambition, duty, and strategy collide. And the night that Camilla lost her title was proof of that truth. Anyhow, the public could only watch. The palace walls held their secrets tightly, but the world sensed the change. Questions lingered. Would the monarchy emerge stronger, or had the crown itself become a fragile relic? Was Camilla's influence truly ended, or merely dormant, waiting for the right moment to strike again? The answers remain unseen. What is certain, however, is this: the monarchy had been tested like never before. Internal conflicts, personal ambitions, and the weight of history collided in a single, decisive moment. The crown had shifted, the balance of power had changed, and the echoes of that night would resonate for generations to come. The question now remains for the public, for observers, and for those within the palace. Was this the night the monarchy restored its order, or the moment it fractured forever? The answer is still unfolding, hidden in whispers, shadows, and the hearts of those who hold the crown.